If you know, you know. Dave is probably one of the best modern TV shows. And I think you do know because you're watching this video. What's up, guys? Ryan here, talk about Dave, the FX series you probably watch on Hulu. It just wrapped up its 3rd season. I love this show. I always have. But season 3 sort of clicked with me more than the last 2, I feel like. And I've just been loving it so much. And I really enjoyed the progression. I really enjoyed the whole story about Dave being on tour, him looking for love, and where the story took him. And also everyone around him too, because the story has been great for the whole crew, not just Dave. But obviously it's about Lil Dicky. And the big thing in this show is that he is a smaller artist who decided one day that he wanted to do this. He dreamt very big and he got it. He became a rapper, a celebrity. Obviously, this is like based on his real story. The concept is there, and this is really coming from Dave Burd. He is telling a story about a character that we really could love, but also at the same time, it's hard to love him, especially by the end of the season because of some of the decisions he's made, but he grows. Season 3 is about Dave looking for love. The tour is literally titled based on that goal. Throughout the season, we get to see a documentary being made about him. Emma is filming the whole thing and documenting all of these crazy experiences they have as they're on tour, going through different states and meeting a lot of different people, and all the communication between the group as friends, basically family, the highs and the lows. And I love that. The idea of them creating a documentary is really cool and special for the tour, but also it gets even deeper because by the end, obviously, Dave doesn't really like what is in the documentary. They show the video, it's great. Everyone's loving it. There's really a special vibe to it because it's fun, it's funny. Everyone kind of pokes fun at Dave for who he is. He's problematic and he's challenging, but at the same time, they love him. And it's beautiful the way they put that together. Dave doesn't love it because he doesn't really know what he actually wants. He has to really be told it, and he has to really face a harsh reality by the end of the season that shows him he screwed up because his goal is to find love. And he met Robin, a wonderful woman who he really clicked with, and they were doing so well together. But then some of his biggest red flags started to show, and it started to become apparent that Dave wants to find a woman, but he also wants her to be perfect. He's got this vision that no one could really be that perfect. It just doesn't exist that way. You have to be able to understand people have flaws. This is such a real thing. And Dave feels like Robin is great, but maybe she's not perfect. And he wants to find someone who is literally perfect. And he feels like he doesn't have to settle and he's going to keep going and going and going until he finds it. But that will never happen because his expectations are way too high. This is what I love about this storyline because I feel it's super realistic and I feel like I can understand where they're coming from on this because people I know, including myself, sometimes have these high expectations of other people, but it's like you got to think about yourself and you got to realize like we all have flaws, and sometimes the best thing about people is the little things and imperfections. It's okay. Like there's no such thing as being perfect, but Dave has this idea of this perfectionism, and ultimately he realizes by the end of the season he doesn't love himself, and that is the big issue. That is actually what Brad Pitt ends up telling him. That's a message I've heard from people. It's powerful and it's very real. The storyline about Dave and his struggle to get a relationship and the contradictory moments in there too has been really fascinating to watch. It's been so deep. I've really enjoyed seeing Dave struggle and learn about himself to ultimately become better, because this whole thing about being caught up in fame and Hollywood and the music industry, being a rapper and stuff, and all of the stereotypes, but also all of the real things that come with being a rapper that could be seen as almost privileges are all thrown at Dave. Everyone assumes that he's just hooking up with every woman out there because they're fans, and like it's difficult because he doesn't actually want to be like that. He wants to have something real. And then we have Gata, who is almost the opposite. You know, he talks about straight up being addicted to sex. He is always with different women. He's talking about keeping the hose in rotation and stuff. And Gata is like that. He lives that lifestyle. But then by the end of the season, we get to see Gata really come to a realization, and he's feeling so much better about himself after a breakdown, after hard times. You know, Gata and Dave are best friends, and they both have completely different views on how relationships work and how they feel about women and what they want. But by the end, I think that they both learn so much. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is not just a story about Dave. Obviously, the whole crew, all his friends have some growth in different stories. I think Gata is just such a fantastic character. I love seeing this guy be so real with people. Even in that last episode, like, he thought the girl Becca was cool and like he was vibing with her. He's like, follow your dreams, this and that. He's like, she wants to be like you. Obviously, she was crazy and pulled a gun on them, this and that. She was psychotic, but like Gata sort of tries to see the best in some people, but at the same time, Gata also knows how to be well aware of his surroundings, and he tries to teach Dave that in some situations, especially in the hood. I think Gata has really good character development as well. In the episode where they are in Atlanta, he tries to be hard, not just to be hard, but he's actually trying to protect those around him. He doesn't want to feel weak, so that's a big part of his story as well. Also love that by the end of the season, we get to see that Gata actually buys his mom a house, which is interesting because Becca did sort of say, like, what have you actually done for your mom? Clearly, we know that Gata's been trying to be there for everyone he loves, and that obviously includes his mom. So he got her a house, which is really wonderful. I love that. So we see Gata has grown a lot. Els was struggling this season because he has really put forth every bit of time and money into working right alongside Dave, working with Lil Dicky, being there to put in the work, but he's gone broke and he's afraid to admit that until he does. You know, he's been struggling with it, and that is just another realistic theme, right? It's like every character has these ideas that are super grounded and you can understand and you can relate and you can feel for them, because he is ashamed to have no money, to be struggling, but he doesn't want those around him to feel like a burden, that he doesn't want them to have to do things for him. He wants to be his own man. And by the end of the season, wouldn't you know it, Els says he's starting to get his own record label up and running, which is so exciting. He tells his parents that, and I love that for him because Els obviously has this talent. He's worked with a lot of different artists, and Lil Dicky, surprisingly, even though he's been so crazy and hard to work with and everything, he's been his best friend, and he's really gotten Els to a point where he's got success, just like Gata, just like Lil Dicky. Emma, I think it's kind of interesting the way she says, okay, you never paid me, this and that, and she's putting her own work in, and she's got these goals to go talk to other filmmakers, and she wants to really break out and be her own filmmaker in Hollywood, and she's putting in so much effort into shooting everything that happens as they go, and she really makes such a great video. Everyone loves her direction and her editing and stuff, and it shows that she's got talent. She kind of realizes that maybe even though she loves those around her and they all love her and stuff, maybe she is built for more and she doesn't feel as appreciated, especially because it's not like she was hired by Dave necessarily for this Lil Dicky tour documentary and everything. She knows what she needs to do, and she does get to talk to some people by the end, so she's got big things coming for her in the filmmaking scene, which is awesome. Mike, I think he realized that his hard work has paid off. Sometimes I think that he thought he was working too much and stressing himself out, but he realized, like, you know, this is good work and it's paying off. He ended up meeting someone, actually falling in love with her, and while it was casual at first, it looks like by the end that they seem to be a couple, right? Mike has such bad memories of his father, but like at the same time, there are good memories, and I think that he is able to comprehend the lack of perfection in people and accept that it's still his father, and his father did love him and he loved his father. Yes, there was a lot of bad things, but he has some closure by the end of the season, I think, with that, and he really feels like he's come so far as a man that his father's proud of him. Really great character development and growth for our main guys here. Allie comes back. Allie goes through a tough situation where the guy she's talking to does not want a serious relationship. She thinks she's gonna go do some casual hookups. She's going to an old friend, and then that completely falls apart, right? Because he wants it to be casual too. She doesn't know what she wants because ultimately she needs some time for herself. I feel like the conclusion that Dave needs to love himself before loving others could be applicable to Allie as well. Allie realizes that she needs to relax and calm down, and she knows what she wants, and she knows that casual hookups are not for her, and that's fine. She's willing to accept it, and she's willing to work on herself and get to the point where she does meet someone who's meant for her. I wonder if Dave and Allie could end up back together maybe next season, maybe through some hardships, through some assistance with each other's failed relationships and whatnot, especially now that Robin and Dave, we don't know exactly where they're gonna go. low. So potentially, I feel like they're low-key meant to be together. You know what I mean? So I would not hate that. I think they could do well with that. I could feel that chemistry and vibe between them still. And then, yeah, I mentioned Robin. So Robin has been a pivotal role in the last half of this season. She's been the one that Dave really did love, but also was the one that Dave couldn't admit that he loved. He did not want to call her his girlfriend. Oh, we're not dating, this and that. He just continued to be on that. Dave let Robin go because he needed to find himself and work on himself. Robin, I think she really is so hurt and she wants to come back. They sort of tease that she could be by the end of the season, but it's a little hard to say where they're going to go. But I know they will cross paths. They have to. Robin was a great character. I think that Chloe Bennett really was such a fresh, welcoming new character to the series in this season. I loved her vibe. She was a very fun, charming personality. She really clicked with Dave, and I think that they had some really great chemistry. I really liked her. I love the moments they shared together, and I think it's a shame that he lost her because, you know, I don't think he really deserves a girl like that anyway, but Dave is working on himself. And Robin, well, she's probably going to go find herself too, and I think she's probably working towards getting more success with her career and finding love too, and I wouldn't be surprised if next season she ends up happily in love with someone new and Dave maybe regrets it and wants to be back with her, and then maybe that's where he meets somebody else, or maybe Allie and him, you know, we'll see what happens. This season's main theme was looking for love. That was what it was all about, very clearly, and I think they did a really good job telling that story, not just having an artist on tour, but also like all this personal deep stuff. They got so deep, very emotional for a show that's like so absurd sometimes in the comedy. They love dark comedy especially, but also like Lil Dicky is a funny character who's satirical, but like the show went there with so many emotional moments. Not that they hadn't in the last two seasons, but I loved it this season especially. I think I really enjoyed every episode. I wanted to just talk about the main season as a whole, so I'm not going to dive into like every episode, but cameos were very fun. Obviously Rick Ross giving that huge chain to Lil Dicky and then again stolen. Him and Gaeta ended up being in the studio with those guys who robbed him and making some music was sort of just a little bit of a growth for Lil Dicky being recognized, especially by people who would look at him and be like, there's no way this guy can rap, you know what I mean? Fun with Rick Ross and Usher in there. Jack Harlow, finally after being alluded to, was actually in the Met Gala episode, which was so fun. Again, cameos for sure were great in there. Story actually flowed well in there too, because then we got Rachel McAdams. Actually so good too. I love that little dynamic that Lil Dicky established with her. We saw it continue, right, to like the next episode, and then we realized that Dave is obsessed in a way with being at the top as a celebrity too, and Rachel McAdams was sort of that in a different way than he would have expected, and that's sort of why he clicked with her too, because you could tell he was starting to almost like fall in love with her really quickly, which would be completely unnecessary. I actually kind of like the way Brad Pitt was introduced through that music video, and then all the lessons he gave Dave. Pretty interesting, unexpected there. I love that Brad Pitt was a main part of that last episode. That was great. Super good on the dark humor too, and also like building tension. I felt really nervous with that girl being a stalker and, you know, pulling a gun and all. Also the other episode too with the girl Megan, right? Really serious about their beliefs and extremist in that way, and like the way they lived was uneasy. You know, the family was weird, and Dave and all of them were trapped in the house for the night because of the storms, and there were so many funny moments in there. I was cracking up, but it was also very tense on purpose. The way that they do the dark stuff and then also the comedy, and it blends well, and then you get the emotional stuff all in the same episode, right? We get an episode that almost feels like we're watching something like Get Out, like Teddy Perkins Atlanta type vibe. We're laughing about the ridiculous things like the grandma with the dog, you know what I'm saying. Suddenly Gaeta is talking about being a sex addict to the mother, and she's praying for him. Like, it's crazy to think that this episode did all that, and this show just does all that. It balances all these different themes and gives so many messages, but it's also so hilarious, and it gets so real, and that's why I love it. Yeah, Dave just went through a lot with his past girlfriends more than once in this. We had some really funny moments. We had great cameos, and even the ending, right? The last episode, the last scene, we get to see him finally meet Drake. Oh, that was just great. I love that dynamic that they just had instantly. It was just fun. He met a lot of people. He experienced a lot. They all experienced a lot. The tour has been crazy for them. Now they're all grown, and Dave is going to work on himself, loving himself, and really deciding what he truly wants and believes in, so he could actually give the right love to a woman to actually settle down and be serious. Maybe him and Robin will be able to get back together again next season, depending on how much growth they each have for themselves and where that leads them to and other experiences in life. I'm just loving this season. I'm so glad that they nailed it all with the emotional stuff on top of the comedy, this and that. Truly a great season of television and a great series. So yeah, that's it from my little conversation about Dave season 3. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time here. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the season, favorite cameo, favorite episode, favorite storyline character, this and that, what you thought about the new characters. Just let me know any thoughts about Dave in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm Lil Dicky. Hi, I'm Dave. Who's Dave? Hi, I'm Dave. Please watch. Please, I'm Lil Dicky. No, shut up. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm Lil Dicky. Hi, I'm Dave. Who's Dave? Hi, I'm Dave. Please watch. Please, I'm Lil Dicky. No, shut up.